All right, so welcome. I welcome all of you here to our Endless Possibilities Conference, and I'm very, very excited to introduce our keynote presenter this morning. Dr. Barbara Van Haren is currently the State Director of Special Education at the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. Barb has worked at the district and regional levels and in higher education prior to coming to the state level, bringing rural, suburban, and urban experiences. She most recently served as the Director of Special Education and Pupil Services and Regional Services Network Director at CESA 1 for 45 school districts and 23 2R charter schools in CESA 1. In the past, Barb has served as an Assistant Superintendent of Pupil Services for the Howard Suamico School District and as an ad hoc professor of special education at UW Oshkosh, specializing in special education collaboration and leadership. Barb is a lifelong resident of Wisconsin, attending Wisconsin public schools and the UW system, completing her doctorate in educational administration from UW-Madison. She has served as the president for WCAS and the ARC in the Fox cities. I also have a very special connection to Barb because she was my director while I've been at CESA 1, and I consider her not only a great leader, but a great mentor and friend. So please join me in welcoming Barb Van Haren.
Good morning, everybody. It's early, but are we all awake and ready this morning? Let's try that again. Good morning, everybody. That's better. Look at this beautiful view that we have this morning. I want to start by thanking Wisconsin Facets and WISPE this morning for this partnership, and what a great opportunity to bring parents and professionals together around common learning. I also really want to thank Bonnie and Sherry as well. One, they would look great on the same catalog page together. That would be my comment. And thank them for that warm welcome. I am very pleased to be here. Our results-driven accountability system and family engagement are two areas that I'm very, very passionate about. And happy to be talking to you about those two and how they intersect this morning. My hope is that I'm going to be able to give you big picture, national level on RDA, bring that down to what's happening here in our state, then be able to talk about the importance of family engagement in those efforts, and then talking about the connection with literacy and reading, which is what our focus will be. So before I get started, I just would like to take a look at my audience and how many folks that are here that are parents. Okay, great. And how many are educators or professionals in the field? So we really have almost half and half, which is excellent, truly an excellent partnership. Well, to get started, I'm going to introduce you to my family. This is what we look like. As you can see, we support our Wisconsin Badgers. We dress warmly and support our Packers. And we still live in Milwaukee, the Milwaukee area, about 15 to 20 minutes from Miller Park. And we are avid Brewer fans as well. And you can see the little picture in the corner of our picture with the Fonz in Milwaukee. So that's where we make our home, and that's my other half, Greg, and we have two rescue cats, two rescue Siamese cats that keep us busy. I'm also a godmother of a young lady who's now 24 years old with Downs, and also I think it makes me a grand godmother. My other godchild just had a little baby girl named Sophia Grace just a few weeks ago. And so I have two great goddaughters that I'm very close to and care very much about. So that's what my family looks like. And let's talk a little bit about our big topic of the day. Results-driven accountability, when you're going to see RDA as an acronym. And I'm always concerned when special education has another acronym to throw at everyone. Because if you Google it, it might come up as a registered dental assistant. It comes up as the Reader's Digest Association. In our world, it's results-driven accountability. I don't care if you walk out of this room remembering RDA. I care that you remember that our efforts are trying to balance two very critical things in the special education world. One being that we have to ensure compliance with IDEA law, but even more importantly, we need to focus on outcomes and success of our students with disabilities. And that's the big concept that if we can walk out of this room together with, that would be my hope. It truly is not just another acronym, but it's a way of thinking and a way of working within special education. So why did we make this change? This graph is representative of Wisconsin, but it really is representative of what's happening nationally as well. And this has some data on it, and you're going to see two lines at the top, a green line and a yellow line, two green lines and a yellow line. Those are indicators that are about compliance, okay? One is about how well we do transitioning our children from birth to 3 into the school world. Okay? Another is on how we transition our students from school to post-secondary opportunities. And how do we do in terms of our overall compliance? And you can see that either we've made dramatic improvement or have been very successful in those areas of compliance. And that's pretty consistent across states, and it is truly the Wisconsin picture. We have excelled in compliance. The bottom two lines represent, the dark blue line represents our math performance. The light blue line represents our reading performance. And so you can see, despite all sorts of efforts that we have made both at the national level and the state level, our students with disabilities are not performing in the way that we would expect them to do. And nationally, the folks at the federal level are very unsatisfied with those kind of results. And so we really are starting to now make sure we are balancing that compliance with results and really putting more focus there as well. Here's the national perspective. Okay, the accountability system under IDEA should really provide meaningful information to the public regarding the effectiveness of states and districts in educating children with disabilities. So they're putting a focus now on closing that achievement gap, moving away from kind of a one-size-fits-all, compliance-only focus, so that we have a more balanced system that looks at how well students are being educated in addition to continuing to protect their rights. Okay, so it's that balancing act. When I received the flyer for this conference, I saw that a mission was established for this conference. Every child a reader. And I think it's important for us to take a look at the mission statements at the national level, and we're going to do the same thing at the state level in a little bit, to know what it is that drives the work that we do. So I'd like to share those mission statements. For our Department of Ed, you'll see the mission statement says to promote student achievement and preparation for global competitiveness by fostering educational excellence and ensuring equal access for all. Okay. Big picture, what do we want for all of our kids, including our kids with Disabilities. The second mission statement is from the Office of Special Education Programs, and that is to improve results for infants, toddlers, children and youth with disabilities ages birth through 21 by providing leadership and financial support to help states and local districts in ensuring that the rights of infants, toddlers, children and youth with disabilities and their parents are protected. So now you can see that focus coming down to, again, balance protection of rights and also improving results. And then OSEP has established an overall mission for their work around results-driven accountability. And that is to target its work and investments to best support states in improving results for, again, our infants, toddlers, children, and youth with disabilities. So you can see those are kind of our driving forces behind our work. Also, at the national level, they established a number of core principles for the RDA work. The first one, critical one, that the RDA systems at the national level as well as at the state levels will be created in partnership with stakeholders. A little later on in my presentation, I have a slide with all the stakeholders that we have brought to the table and have had conversations with about our RDA work, including both WISPE and Wisconsin Facets. The second principle is that the RDA system is very transparent and it's understandable, one, to states so that we can carry out the work, and to the general public, but most importantly, to individuals with disabilities and to their families. The third driving principle is that RDA will improve outcomes for our children and youth with disabilities, and it's regardless of age, disability, race and ethnicity, language, gender, socioeconomic status, or location. Okay? So that, again, it's that element of we're going to equal that playing field for all our students. Another principle that guides us is that we are ensuring the protection of individual rights of each child or youth with disabilities. It is not diminishing the compliance and the protections under IDEA, but developed in conjunction with that. The fifth guiding principle is that RDA will provide differentiated incentives, supports, and intervention based on the state's unique strengths, progress, challenges, and needs. And that's a little cartoon that says, for a fair selection, everyone has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. And that's going to be a little bit challenging for many of the animals that are represented in that slide. Same thing with our states. What we may need in Wisconsin and how this is going to play out in Wisconsin may look very different from other states across our nation, and that we're going to differentiate that and make it based on our state's needs. The next principle says that the RDA system really encourages our states to direct their resources to where it can have the greatest impact on increasing outcomes and protecting rights for our students. This means we have to look very carefully at the resources that we have, both fiscal resources and human resources, and that we are focusing them in on helping us increase our results. And then finally, we have to make sure that our RDA system is responsive to the needs and expectations of our ultimate consumer. So it needs to be done in a timely manner and in a manner that is responsive. Who's our ultimate consumers? Our kids. Okay. So that is the core principles that are kind of underneath in drawing our work. Okay, so a few more things that I want to share about RDA, kind of big picture kinds of things. We know since the very beginning in 1975, when we had the Education for All Handicapped Children Act, there's been great emphasis placed on procedural compliance and rigorous monitoring efforts and extensive reporting procedures. Okay? Special ed is known for their paperwork, right? Beginning in 2012, the U.S. Department of Ed recognized that the educational outcomes for our kids have not improved as much as expected, even though they've provided all of this oversight and significant funding to address closing those achievement gaps. So now we're really going to hone in on that work. So there's a new primary focus of monitoring. IDEA actually states that the federal government, in our case OSEP, will monitor every state to see how they are doing in terms of implementing special education. Previously, we've only looked at compliance. Beginning this past year, OSEP has started to look at a combination of compliance and results, and have made and announced state determinations. And in fact, I'm anticipating in the next couple of months we will be hearing again what Wisconsin's determination will be for the 14-15 school year. And they have also stated that states that are low performing will get the most intensive supports. So what they are really looking at is improving educational results, functional outcomes or functional performance for our students, and ensuring that requirements are met, with an emphasis on requirements that are most closely related to increasing student results. I'm very happy to say that Wisconsin this past year was one of only 15 states that met requirements of balancing compliance and with outcomes. I will tell you, it's because Wisconsin rocks when it comes to compliance. Okay? We still have a lot of ground to make up for results, but we were high enough in our compliance area that we were viewed as one of 15 states that met requirements. But it doesn't mean that our work is done. So each year, Wisconsin needs to send to the Office of Special Ed Programs information on how we've done on all of our indicators. Okay? And you'll hear we have 17 indicators. The indicators 1 through 16 are things like graduation rates. Okay, how many kids are graduating? Suspension and expulsion. How many kids with disabilities are suspended and expelled? How are we doing with preschool outcomes? How are we doing with post-secondary outcomes? Those are all things that we have to report on an annual basis. And we did that in February. This year, for the very first time, we had a new indicator, Indicator 17, and that was the State Systemic Improvement Plan. And we needed to send a plan, a comprehensive, multi-year process of how Wisconsin was going to go about improving results for kids with disabilities. And we did so in April. We're awaiting news on how we did. But every state across our nation now has actually provided this new improvement plan as part of their reporting process to the federal government. This is what we needed to include, and you'll see it goes through in phases. In phase 1, which needed to be delivered April 1, 2015, we pushed the button in our office. We all did the happy dance, that it was gone and out. These are the things that we included in that phase one. An analysis of our data. What did our data tell us? We included an infrastructure analysis. In other words, what kinds of things do we have in place, or what kinds of things are missing in our state around improving outcomes for kids? We had to identify what's called a state identified measurable result. Another great acronym. It's SIMMER, if you put that together. So we've used pictures of boiling pots, actually, but again, not important to remember, but what is it that we're going to work on and target? We had to also develop a theory of action that worked together with a set of improvement strategies. So those are the things that we worked on, and I'm going to share those this morning so that you can see what we're working on. The next phase then is actually helping better develop that structure of support, to put in opportunities to increase our district's implementation of evidence-based practices, and developing an evaluation plan. How do we know if we've gotten the work done? And then the last phase is really the hard work, the hard lifting. Okay? Implementation and evaluation, and taking a look again at our results. Are we seeing results for our efforts? And I've given you also just a bit of a year-by-year layout of the kinds of activities that we were engaged in. So what does this look like, and what does this mean in Wisconsin? I'm also going to try to keep an eye on time, but I'm going to set that there, and Sherry's going to keep me on track, so great. So what does this mean for us as a state? Any work that we do in special education has to connect back to the greater work that we have happening here in the state. So our work of RDA in Wisconsin really must be based on the mission and vision that we have for all of our students. And so I'd like to share with you Dr. Tony Evers' Agenda 2017. That's kind of where we started. First off, we have to look at high expectations, good quality standards, and instruction for all kids. What and how should our kids learn? Secondly, we need to have solid assessments and data systems in place so we will know if our kids have learned that information. We also need to have a system of accountability, and that's where our work connects very nicely, both from a systems perspective and an individual's perspective. How do we support improvement if kids aren't learning? And then finally, school finance. How are we going to pay for our schools? So that's Dr. Evers' agenda that he has put forward and that drives much of our work at the state level. Along with that agenda, there are a number of target goals that have been established. Increasing graduation rate for all of our students up to 92%. Increasing career and college readiness from 49% to 67%. Closing graduation and career and college readiness gaps by 50%. Adopting our fair funding for our future plan to make school finance more equitable and transparent. And then the one that I highlighted, because I think it most directly connects with the work in special education, is increasing the percentage of students scoring proficient in 3rd grade reading and in 8th grade math. Okay. So those are the goals that really go along with the Agenda 2017. In addition to that, over the last probably about a year to 18 months or so, Dr. Evers commissioned a group of practitioners and parents to take a look at closing our achievement gaps in the state of Wisconsin. Dr. Damon Means headed up that work. He is the superintendent in Mequon, Thanesville. Wisconsin has extreme achievement gaps for our kids, particularly our kids of color, also for our English learners, also for our students with disabilities. This group of individuals put forth a document that identified the most effective practices to help close that achievement gap. So coming at it from a very, I think, positive direction, what are the things that are out there that we already know are working? What can we do more of? And those items fell into basically 4 different categories or pillars. First and foremost, family and community involvement. Critical and key for closing our achievement gaps. Also, school and instructional leadership. Effective instruction. And the relationships that are built and are maintained between our students and our teachers. Those 4 pillars are also helping to guide our work around results-driven accountability. And I've given you the link for the Excellence for All website. They've been adding a number of just tremendous videos that really show great practice. And so when you get some time, I really encourage people to go to that site and spend some time there. Excellent information in a real positive way of looking at what we can do differently. Also, we have some guiding principles of teaching and learning that we've established for all students. All educational priorities are guided and impacted by important and often unstated attitudes or principles for teaching and learning.